everybody, and I see we got a raid. Hello, hello. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you so much, Eve, for the raid. Welcome in, Raiders. It is me, Mo, and today we have Lucy. Yippee! Yippee! Thank you so much for the raid, and I really appreciate it. And remember, Raiders, if you guys need to raid and dash, remember to get something to eat, get something to drink, and definitely get some rest. But yes, today we are doing our morning coffee with Lucy today. Yippee!
Howdy.
Would you like to introduce
Hi.
yourself, beautiful?
Yeah, sure. Hi. Hello. Hi. I'm Luci-04. I am one of Mo's newest sisters. We are babies. I am the embodiment of the F4 Phantom. So shout out to my Phantom homies.
Hey.
But yeah, I'm so excited. I don't know what else to say other than I'm just super excited and really appreciative that Mo has asked me on the show. Yeah.
Yeah, Phantom, our beloved, on God. So, we are doing another interview today. And remember, guys, the whole point of this entire talk segment is for you guys to get to know our talents deeper than just a pretty boobalicious anime girl on the screen. And so, today's topic, I did ask Lucy some of her interests, and our topic today is on occult studies, which is one of her interests. And I do want to do
Yeah.
a quick disclaimer, guys.
Mhm.
Whatever she says is her own research and study. Please take that with a grain of salt. Everyone's research, study, and findings are all completely different. Experiences are different. So please do not try to take her words as what is set in stone, like for like
Yes.
worldwide universal research. This is what she's learned on her own
Yes.
time, and so please try not to summon a demon on our behalf. She's the only one that you guys are going to be needing. So
Yes.
so yeah, disclaimer on that for today's topic, okay?
I am the only one today.
Yeah,
Yes.
she's the only one you guys are gonna need. And if you guys try to summon another
Mhm.
one, she's gonna, I don't know, fucking crawl through a portal and haunt you guys or something. I don't know what they
I
do.
have my ways.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. The ring style.
Exactly. Gonna go swoop straight up out of the nine rings of hell. No worries.
All right.
Yes.
So, let us get started with our first questions. So,
See.
I hear you're interested in occult studies. What part of the
Yes.
studies do you enjoy specifically, and how did you get into it?
Okay. For this one, I think I'm gonna go backwards. So what brought me to it initially is there's this joke for certain people in like the community is the one way to like, get your kid interested into weird kind of macabre things
Mm-hmm.
is to raise them Catholic, and that's kind of what happened. So my family, a good portion of it is still Catholic. I was baptized into it, Latin rites.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who know, because it's also there's a bunch of branches. It's common within religions. It happens. I was taught with the Catholic Latin rites, and very common in Latin America, which is, it's no secret, Latina over here. But so having a very or a semi-religious upbringing is interesting because it's very like this is your worldview, child, tiny baby. You kind of just have to run with it for the most part, and for countries in Latin America specifically, it's really ingrained in like social culture and holidays, stuff like that. So when someone goes against it, it's a little like, what are you doing, you know? But I've always been very curious about those kind of things, and as I've gotten older, I've actually also learned that it's kind of in my blood.
Oh.
Something that my mother did not want me to know at all. But yeah, no, like, it's fun when you get older and people start telling you stuff about the family, like little like tidbits here and
Little
there.
secrets.
Yes, the family secrets, exactly. I found out that on both parts of my family, the maternal and the paternal side, I had relatives who were doing some kind of like spooky stuff, dabbling. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, like on my mom's side, we've got shamanism,
Oh.
which is also very common in Latin America, specifically the like for my Afro-Caribbean community as well. And then on my dad's side, it was a lot of the spookier stuff. So like what could be qualifies as like black magic.
Oh.
Yes, which also explains a lot as to why my family was like, "Hey, stop looking into these things. Stop
Mm-hmm.
it. No."
Mm-hmm.
But that only just made me more curious,
Mm-hmm. That is true,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So my fascination began actually within the church,
Mm-hmm.
with the concept specifically of sainthood,
Oh.
in Christianity being one of the most prominent religions on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
I think like it's one of the top three. Catholicism specifically is, if I remember correctly, about 17% of the global population identifies as Catholic,
Mm-hmm.
right? And within those, there are different branches, different parishes. They do things differently.
Mm-hmm.
And then the subject of sainthood is kind of dicey for some.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there are officially canonized or I believe glorified saints. If you're more like in the not the Protestants, they don't actually recognize sainthood
Mm-hmm.
uh, in a certain subject. The canonization ones are the ones that are officially recognized by the Vatican, right?
Mm-hmm.
My favorite ones are the folk saints, and
Oh.
there's so many of them in
Mm-hmm.
Latin America. So they're not necessarily recognized by the Vatican,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're not official. They're
Yeah.
like they're like born they're like grassroots canonization specific to local communities.
Mm-hmm.
And you see it all over Latin America.
Mm-hmm.
You see like things like down in Argentina they have Gauchito Gil or Gil. I'm not sure if they say the G with a hard G or not.
Mm-hmm.
But he's essentially like an Argentinian cowboy,
Mm-hmm.
and he's seen as like the protector for the poor,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But if you go to the Vatican, they're like, that guy, we don't know him,
Yeah.
right? Or like in Mexico, they have La Santa Muerte, which
Mm-hmm.
is Holy Death.
Oh.
And she for sure is super fascinating to me
Mm-hmm.
because Mexico as a whole is fascinating as a case study because it's a country so fascinated with death.
Oh.
And that's a whole different subject. Like I've done a
Yeah.
whole like looking into death rites and death rituals and
Yeah.
death culture. It's fascinating because for most people it's a very sad thing,
Yeah.
right? It is the final chapter within like our mortal confines, our coils.
Yeah.
But depending on where you are on the planet, it's seen through so many different lenses
Mm-hmm.
with so many different kinds of rituals.
Mm-hmm.
It's really fascinating. So when you have a folk saint like La Santa Muerte, she's super popular, especially nowadays with like the cartels or organized crime,
The
stuff
cartel is
like that.
insane.
Yeah. But not to say that everyone who is practicing like veneration of her is, doing some nefarious stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But she's risen to prominence because of it, and her followers are super devout.
Yeah.
They like stand by her.
Mm-hmm.
The Vatican absolutely hates that is happening. But it's those kind of like grassroots kind of deities or like saints that really kind of brought my attention to religious studies, and then in very very like thin line between religious studies and occult studies, right? So occult studies, like you mentioned before we started, gets a lot of like got a flack, a lot of stigmatization behind it. All it really is occult comes from like the Latin term occultus, which means to be hidden. So it's knowledge or practices, rituals that aren't typically within like the zeitgeist, the popular zeitgeist, the mainstream, which historically speaking, to the spoils go or to the victors go the spoils, right? Those who have the power and influence get to dictate partially what history is.
Yeah, yeah.
So it gets a little hazy, but when you're looking at it from like that kind of objective view,
Yeah, yeah.
there isn't really much separating what is considered to be a cult and what is a major religion, right?
Oh, I see.
it's all that really separates the two is uh, if you're Christian, it's a religion because it has been established, it's been cemented, it's had backing from nations, it's got power, it's got influence because it's spent so much time within popular practice. Whereas something like paganism is very much still alive, but it's not as, for lack of a better word, popular. Also in part due to the big boys, the big organizations not liking them. You know? History. Yeah, it's I don't have to get into it, but like things like the Spanish Inquisition, stuff like that. But it's really fascinating. From an anthropological perspective to me personally, because humans are such creatures of habit. We are just like really cocky. We have all this bravado, and we're really curious by nature. For as long as we have like documented history, people have been wanting to know what is going on. Why are we here? What is happening? Why is this that? Why? So this is where all of this religion, the occult, comes in, because the purpose of all of it, in essence, is to just figure out what we are, why we are, what is happening, where are we going. It's all the same. Essentially.
It definitely gives you that identity crisis for sure.
Oh, 1,000%. Yes. It makes you. It's if you are someone who thinks too much, like myself. It is like catnip, but also sometimes you just lie awake at night going like, maybe the Native Americans were right. Maybe the Nordics were right. Shinto is, it's just like it's definitely a rabbit hole for sure.
No, I can imagine it being so. Yeah, but it's really fascinating to hear how it kind of came about, And as you said, it's like it's like there's a fine line that kind of makes a difference, and the main one being is like, oh, religion has been cemented and practiced for so long, and it's quote popular, right? And then things like things like occult studies is just kind of, and like for example, as you said, paganism, it's because it's not popular with those of like say Catholicism, Christianity, etc. It kind of gets thrown out with the stigma. But it's like you look at these things and you look at see like how it's come about, but and I know there's a lot of people that are skeptical about it existing and the practice, and if it's all just a bunch of like a bunch of hullabaloo, like is this real and stuff like that, right? And I know a lot of people ask that question about religion, like, oh, is this real? Did these things really happen? So with that kind of question in mind, it's like how what part of occultism made you believe in it in the first place?
So that's kind of an interesting question, and it's the one I'm kind of looking forward to the most. Well, some of them later on, but so the fascinating part is I wouldn't say I believe them as much as I am in the pursuit of understanding them. I identify as non-religious. I do have some kind of little tidbits with spiritualism, but it's not like really tied to any particular one faith or theology. I more so just kind of want to understand what's going on, because there are a lot of through lines especially between the three major Judeo-Christian religions. And if you don't know what those are, that's Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Essentially, they kind of share a foundation. I'm not going to get too much into that because that's a whole other beast in itself. But you take those three and there's a lot of commonalities. There's a lot of same players, a lot of kind of same occurrences that happen. It's just different interpretations, different lenses that have been applied to it. And then from that, their own cultures. And then from that, their own subcultures. And they just grow and grow and branch out. And so we as people then, right, if you're born into like myself into a Catholic household, well, I was baptized at like 1 month old, which depending on what kind of Catholic you are, it ranges, because some parishes prefer to wait until someone is old enough to make that decision for themselves. And some of them, like the old school Latin ones, are like, nah, we gotta get you demon proof immediately.
Yeah.
So essentially, you're like, dunk the baby in the water, yes. But I didn't really have a choice,
Yeah.
and I know in myself that it was never something that I, uh, like, without stepping on anyone's, because everyone is free to express themselves and conform to any or practice any theology, ideology. I never really had faith in it. Right? It was always something for me that I was told I had to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, you go to church because this, you do this, you go get the ashes smeared on you for Good Wednesday and all that.
Yeah.
But I was never like, I feel the spirit,
Yeah.
I never had anything. I never really found community in the church. I never found guidance. None of that, which some people do. A lot of people do, and that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Which is, in its purest form, I think what organized religion should be. We're not going to touch on the other very bad negative parts.
Yeah.
Because again, whole other beast. But I didn't find that. So for me, and I also had questions.
Yeah.
Which, in these kind of settings, a lot of the times people will encourage you to ask questions. But when you start asking questions that fall outside of what could be answered, it's when they're like, okay, maybe maybe you need to sign up for Sunday school.
Yeah.
Right? I was super lucky. My family, for the most part, is still majority Catholic, but they were like the stereotypical Catholics. There is this kind of stereotype that Catholicism is like, I don't want to, these are not my words. These are not my words. Are kind of like an easier form of Christianity because they're a bit more lax. Don't get me wrong, there are some hardcore Catholics, but there's a stereotype that like Catholics don't go to church unless somebody died or like they fucked up, you know?
Oh, I never heard of this.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a little bit of a stereotype.
Yeah.
And my family was very much that. Like,
Oh.
we didn't really go to church every Sunday. It was more so like every once in a while, for baptisms, for the weddings, funerals, quinceañeras, because Latinos. But yeah, so it's like I never really, I don't know if it was just that or I was just in my coding, you know? So like, I did my rites up until my first communion, and then afterwards I was like, Mom, I have news for you, Mother.
Mama Lucy.
Yes, Mama Lucy. And she was like, when I told her that I didn't have faith, was a very interesting kind of conversation with my mother, who was born in a very Catholic country in Latin America. That's all she really knew. And she was kind of just like, it was really funny because my mom is very open-minded in many ways, and I'm very grateful. And I think that just stems from my family operates kind of like a matriarchy anyway. Like my grandma was like the big boss. Right? So ladies were always in charge.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, 1000%.
Fight
and
the
my mom
patriarchy.
Exactly. I think my mom also just saw it coming,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah.
Where she kind of just like looked at me and she seemed a little disappointed. But she was like, I understand. Like, she didn't outright say, like, I knew this was coming, but
she
like,
kind of had that inkling,
Yeah, definitely. She's just like, you've always been sticking your nose in like the really weird stuff. Like, I remember one of my older relatives asking me why I like to hang out in graveyards. And for me, it was mostly because they're really peaceful. I have unfortunately had a few family members pass, and so going to visit them was always nice. It was a good, like, kind of chance to decompress. It's really peaceful in a place of burial, just in general. It's also a good place to go talk to your family, you know? But because of that, and because I was always kind of like a weird introverted kid, and then by that time I was also super emo, my mom was like, do you see ghosts, Lucy? Like, no, but that's when I learned, right? And this kind of also helped spark more of my interest that apparently in my family, we do have people who are sensitive to that kind of thing.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-mm.
So, like, I remember my father telling me, he asked me to independently. He's like, "Do you see anything when you're up there?" And I'm like, "No, I don't." He's
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, because, like, I felt when my great aunt died." I'm like, "What do you mean by that,
Mm-mm.
sir?"
Yeah.
Um, so that really kind of sparked more of it for
Yeah.
me. And also people are just like, you tell people to do something, to not do something, and they're gonna do
They're
it.
gonna do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really funny. It's the whole reverse psychology. It's like, oh, don't don't do drugs, and then like like kids get interested and like, oh, I wonder why they tell us not to do it. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like I read somewhere is like the more is like it kind of applies to like the whole parenting is like the stricter and the more you restrict your kids, the sneakier they are. So I feel like when parents are
Yes.
not open minded to having a conversation, they tell you don't do it, and then you ask why, and they're like it's just bad, and that's their only reason. Is like it kind of
Yeah.
pushes you to be more interested into why they're so against it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's that, it's again, people, human beings, we're just really naturally
Yeah, curious.
curious.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you tell someone, especially someone as curious as a child,
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
you can't do this because it's bad, but
Yeah.
then you don't offer any reasoning behind
Yeah.
it, they're just
Yeah.
gonna be like, I don't really have a concept of why it's bad.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
is it really that bad?
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, but going back to like your mom and your dad asking you if you see things like I've heard that some people are more like spiritually connected, where they
Yes.
and like there's the whole like third eye type of thing, or like connection to the dead, etc. Like there's so many different variations because there's so many different
Yes.
cultures that view it differently. Like I know in my family some people are more spiritually connected because when we have someone that has passed, we dream of them, right? And then when we dream of them, it's because they're either here to like say like give a message or a forewarning and stuff like that. So like I have
Mm-hmm.
my aunt, right? When Papa Mo unfortunately passed, like my aunt, like for the first couple months had dreams of him, and he would like come by and talk to us, right? And I think it really depends because like some are just more than others, and for me like I had just that one example of spiritual connection because like when he had passed, I had two dreams, right? Where one he was like very, I don't know if it was like maybe a demon or something, but like he was like standing in the corner of my room and was just watching me, right? And then like, and you know how like there's that saying that animals are like very spiritually connected and they
Sensitive?
can, yeah,
Yes.
and they can see, right? So I have my dog whom chat has heard before, like, and that night when I was sleeping, like I saw him and I had woken up and she was standing on my chest and she was looking exactly at the corner. So I was like, oh, maybe he had visited me, right? But he didn't say anything, right? And then my second dream a couple weeks later was not the same thing. It was just him standing next to me on like in
Mm-hmm.
his car, and all he goes is I'm home, right?
Oh.
And I think that's just kind of like him saying like, oh, like I'm resting, I'm home, and kind of like I'm here. And I think it's just kind of having those type of spiritual connection makes me wonder if all of this like talk about occultism and spirits and practices, like if it's real because of experiences like this. And an experience like this is like not something you can really explain, right? There's no like
Mm-hmm.
one true like practice or one true
Yeah.
explanation, which is why it makes sense like when I ask you, do you believe in it, and you tell me it's not something that I believe, it's more so something that I'm curious and I want to
Mm-hmm.
understand. And something like this topic is so hard for people to understand because it's just so many different different, what's the word, there's so many different factors that play into it
Yes.
that you can't just say, oh, it's real, or oh, it's
Yes.
not real. It's there, and all we can do is try to understand it to the best of our
Yes.
ability. So yeah.
Yeah. But also, just to kind of add to it, the concept of occultism has so much beneath it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's so much that falls under or can be categorized
Mm-hmm.
as falling under the occultism.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have stuff like hoodoo,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Not voodoo,
Mm-hmm.
different,
Yep.
but hoodoo specifically is so misunderstood. Because it was created within the unfortunately black enslaved communities back way. And it is this mix of their native kind of like African spiritual practices and Christianity. Because in hoodoo, the most magic exists. There's all these different elements, but for the most part, hoodoo is coming from a place of light, we'll say. And the Bible itself is in hoodoo is viewed as the most ultimate power. It's like it's a magical book, and it kind of like in very watered down terms, it's the ultimate magic within hoodoo practice, right? But people hear that and they automatically think, oh, it's bad. It's like demonic. It's like and then also, you know, me sticking to my brand, Satanism as a whole also has multiple branches. There's different things, there's different ideologies. But if I were to describe to you what Satanism is without telling you first that it's Satanism, I don't think you would have really thought that it was Satanism.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's we live in a world that's already like all these biases are already set in place. They're already set in stone. And sometimes you get stuff like later on I'm going to talk about a little bit about like the Thelemites. Stuff like that where it's you understand why people are more skeptical about it. Because the occult has been around for as long as we pretty much have recorded history. And like pretty much everything else within human understanding and human culture. It has been passed down, it has been built upon, it has been modified. You know, like you said, there's so many different factors. But it's essentially one big term for anything that doesn't fall within acceptable religious or like spiritual canon. So there's a lot of stuff in there. Like it's a very deep iceberg. 1000%.
I can imagine.
And like with ghosts or spirits, pretty much every culture that we know of, that we are aware of, that has like documented kind of like recorded history has a variation of spirits. So what can we infer from that? Like humans have been pondering the like what is the afterlife for so long.
No, it's incredibly like interesting, and again, like as you said, every culture has its variation of it. So it just makes you wonder like what is there, you know? And as you said like earlier, it's like you like as you said you study Satanism, and I feel like that has the biggest stigma is you look at Satanism and all you hear is demon, goat, demon lord, 666, etc. Like that's bad and stuff like that, because like the bigger religion like have like kind of put in that stigma that these smaller practices are bad, because I guess in a way, not in a way, but people have been told that it goes against the major religion, right? So like how do you feel about the skepticism and the stigma that surrounds occultism, or like as you said, around practices like Satanism and paganism and etc.?
It's kind of like a bit, I don't want to say frustrating, because like the first thing I know to be true, I don't know a lot of things, but what I know is that people are people. And people are gonna do what they're gonna do. And it's good to be skeptical. It's good to like to question always. Never accept something blindly. 1000% never accept anything blindly. But like I guess I don't really feel too passionate either way, because people are people. Aside from being like super excited about being able to speak about it, but like my first kind of like and I refer back to anthropology a lot because I fucking adore anthropology, which is funny because I'm such an introvert and a little bit misanthropic, but anthropology is essentially the study of humans, the study of human culture, right? It's this kind of cross-section between biology and history and culture. It's awesome. I love it. I wish people would put more faith into it, but humanities as a whole right now is not something people are putting a lot of faith, a lot of attention on. But I like don't like society. Oh God, fucking edgelord. But humans themselves are fascinating to me. Like I said, we're creatures of habit, curious, bold, so uninformed, but so hungry for like answers, and we're so restless. Yes, we're so unsatisfied with what we know that is the root of why we are here. Of why technology has progressed. Of why I'm able to speak to you right now through this like computer. Right? Like it's, and all of that has inception in more esoteric kind of like occulty things. Like there's a trend throughout history that some of the very prominent scientists have also been occultists.
That's true,
because like if you have big brain want answers.
That's true,
and typically they're not as or they don't really allow themselves, they don't like to be restricted by the confines of any one doctrine, be that religious or whatever, or just sometimes, don't get me wrong, a lot of like major scientists throughout history were also kind of sleazy, so that's another discussion entirely. But we concoct all these narratives, we put together these systems of belief, these rituals, practices, just because we want to carve out meaning, right? We want to find what our purpose is. What do we do with our lives? Like, we want so badly to know who and what and why we are, that we're just like on this like cosmic hamster wheel of just repeating all these like trends, not necessarily like fashion wise, but behavioral, and right now, actually, I don't even need to say right now. It's trend throughout history. If you are nonconformist, if you reject the major kind of like ways of living, you're gonna get labeled as a kook. You're gonna get burned at a stake. And it's fucked up.
No,
but also, it's also worth looking at it from the other perspective of why were these people so dedicated to these practices that ended up either ruining them or sadly taking, why would someone stick to their guns when it comes to this practice, this study, this pursuit of knowledge that it doesn't fall in line with the normative, that they were willing to die for it. Right? And I think that is worth looking into. So the skepticism will always be there. It's always been, it will always be. If some new savior, idol, deity were to be like present itself, people would reject it, right? Like if tomorrow a big cloud in the sky opened up and like a deity who's like, hey, I know all and I am the reason you're here, people would look at it and go, bullshit. So it's to be expected. It's just, it is what it is. I just think people are gonna do what they're gonna do. But it also is just like, how do we define what counts as an occult practice? What counts as an esoteric practice? Because like for things that fall under it, like you have your hoodoo, you have astrology is in there, tarot. The concept of ghosts in himself also count as an occult thing. Spiritualism, not necessarily in kind of like the getting in touch with yourself, but spiritualism as it is defined, which is like the communication of humans with the dead. It's also in there. And you can, like you were saying, you were sharing your experience with the dreams, and I can also I've not had them, but people as close to me as my mother had. When my grandpa died, like a few days after, she had a dream where he was there and he was kind of just sitting on the couch. They had a conversation, and she woke up And she told me, she's like, I feel less grief now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm not here to say what is right and what is wrong,
Yeah.
if this is factual, if this is not.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just so fascinating.
It is. No, yeah, it incredibly is, especially with how everyone sees it in different ways. And it's
Hmm.
just like, as you said, it really sucks that there will always be stigma on just being curious about the unknown, especially if it kind
Yes.
of contrasts with like the most popular beliefs. But like that's like stigma will always have that kind of portrayal, but like in different ways of portrayals. Like, how do you feel about how social media and entertainment media like portrays this type of topic?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So that's a whole other thing that I've actually looked into a lot.
Mhm.
But it's funny. It's it's so funny because I mean, we live in America, right? We got Hollywood.
Good old America.
Never trust Hollywood's interpretation of
Yeah.
anything ever. Um, but media in culture and as a reflection of culture as a whole is a beast. Um, there's a psychology to it. There's a science to it that they are taking advantage of as well.
Mhm.
But it's also a perfect capsule
Mm.
of the times.
Mm, mm.
It's why people feel the nostalgia. It's why people will uh, like in reference to the F4, right, the Phantom, and things like there's a certain subgenre,
Mhm.
like, what do I want to say? How do I want to phrase this? Think of like, uh, if I were to ask you
Mhm.
to think of a movie
Mhm.
that encapsulates like what was it, the 60s, during things like the Vietnamese, like
Mhm.
the conflict with Vietnam and all that, and the Korean War,
Mhm.
stuff like that. Specifically, I guess Vietnam.
Yeah.
There is people will probably jump on, like, if I ask you to give me music
Mhm.
that is kind of symbolic in popular culture,
Mhm.
I'm guessing people are gonna start throwing like Fortunate Son at me,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Or like Creedence Clearwater
Yeah.
or Apocalypse Now,
Mhm.
stuff like that. It's those kind of like encapsulations of
Yeah.
time and that that are very interesting to see. And with the cults, typically
Mhm.
it's through horror.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
It's if you're gonna like if any movie's gonna tackle any kind of like form of like occult practice, it's
Always
always
horror.
always horror.
Yep.
1,000%. Which again kind of just like tells you what, as someone who isn't really thinking about it, if you want to throw in types of like subliminal or messaging, or
Mhm.
there's a lot of like dicey
Yeah.
things when people start talking about things that are subliminal and all
Yeah.
that all that stuff. But it's always horror.
Yep. It is
So
always horror.
to this day, like back in the day, it's like, don't do this
Mhm.
or else you'll get thrown in
Yeah.
the river. And
Yeah.
this day, it's not as like bad
Mhm.
in certain places,
Mhm.
but it's still being reinforced that, hey, if you read the tarot deck, you're
Mhm.
gonna die.
Yeah.
Like, right? There was a whole like horror movie based around tarot,
Yeah.
and tarot in itself is fascinating to me because did you know that it started off as just as a card game? That's all it
Oh,
was.
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
what the hell?
So like the first instances of tarot, I believe, trace back to Italy.
Mhm.
I believe, if I remember this correctly.
Mhm.
But that's all it was. It was just a card game,
Mhm.
and there was stigma behind it, but mostly because people were using it to gamble.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Oh, I
yeah,
never knew this. What?
yeah. Which is why some tarot readers today, you can use like a regular poker deck to perform like a tarot reading if you
Mhm.
really wanted to, because it's this kind of the same structure. It's four suits, four distinct ones. Each suit has an element tied to it, has a time period, has like things. There's a lot of it. Like I also know how to read tarot because I'm like I must learn. But also like one of my great aunts was a pretty well-known tarot reader back in the home country. So I was just like, I need to understand this, right? It started off as a card game. People were gambling. The church was like, we don't like this. Gambling, bad. And then a few centuries later, it's when the occult community kind of really picked it up.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, yes. What was I? Where was I?
They
It
kind of
wasn't
start
until
picking it up.
yeah, they picked it up. It wasn't until the 15th century in France where people started using it for cartomancy, which is basically
Oh.
just divination with cards.
Mm-hmm.
And the one that is more popular today in pop culture,
Mm-hmm.
like in media, the one that you usually see, wasn't even created until like 1909.
Yeah. Mm.
So it's really new.
Oh yeah. What the heck?
Yeah, so it's in a way it's funny because like media will help propel it
Mm-hmm.
because you're bringing more eyes to the subject that a
Yeah.
lot of people wouldn't know about, which is
Yeah.
why like astrology is really freaking popular.
Yeah.
Not in the same way it used to be.
Yeah.
It's more kind of like a fun kind of like ah ha ha, like I'm a
Mm-hmm.
Pisces,
Yeah.
but still people know about it.
Yeah.
No, so double-edged sword.
Yeah, yeah, always, yeah. Especially with how entertainment media is.
Mhm.
So yeah. But yeah, no, that's fascinating. I never knew that about tarot and stuff like that. That's wow. I don't know. I just never knew that, and I don't think
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of you guys didn't even know that either. And if you tell me you did, that is a lie. But yeah, but
It's a
no.
lot of weird stuff like that.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I don't know. I could keep going, but go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna be like, no, this is like all very fascinating information. It's like, again, all of this I never would have known because it's just, again, like, social media and entertainment will kind of push you to be like, oh, this is really bad stuff, don't learn
Yeah.
about it, and then like people will
Yeah.
either learn about it and get information wrong, or they don't want to learn about it. I'm like, this is really fascinating,
Yeah.
and again, like I feel like I've learned so much from this just by talking to you, and I feel like
Yeah.
there's like so much more that you could have to say about it because there's just so much to learn. Again,
I
as you
could
said,
yap
I
a lot.
swear.
Yeah. 1,000%.
Oh, yeah. Do you like have any like fun facts that you have about the occult or occult studies?
Yeah. So two come up. One is kind of like, okay, I'll start with the first one because I think it's kind of funny. So the occult kind of is a reason why phosphorus was discovered at first.
What?
Yeah. Okay, so alchemy
Uh-huh.
is also something that falls under the matter of occultism.
Mhm.
And for all my not stupid Americans who know what a philosopher is, if you've heard of the Philosopher's Stone,
Mm.
alchemists loved that boy. They were like on the grind for the
Yeah.
Philosopher's Stone,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Harry Potter, Fullmetal Alchemist,
Yep.
all that fun stuff. So there was a German alchemist. They call him an alchemist, but he was more so kind of like a doctor.
Mm-mm.
A military officer. I forget what, but I know he was a military man. But he was more so a doctor. But he married a rich baddie who would
There you
fund
go.
his lab essentially. His name was Henning Brandt. He was a German alchemist in like the late 17th century. And he accidentally discovered phosphorus. And he
Wow.
did so. Yeah, which was also the first documented occurrence of anyone, like the first documented discovered element.
Mhm.
And he did it on accident because he was trying to find the Philosopher's Stone.
That's interesting. Wow.
Yes. So, like, if you don't know, the Philosopher's Stone was a big deal and everybody wanted it because nobody was funding alchemy.
Yeah.
And the Philosopher's Stone was thought to be able to convert any metal into gold. So it was like the first infinite money hack.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what Brand decided to do after all of his research and study is he hypothesized. So I love this fucking story. He did it by using human urine.
Oh, what?
Yes. So he allegedly, according to like documented like records, he went around local like taverns collecting urine, like gallons of urine.
Did he just ask people to just piss in this fucking cup or something? The fuck?
They're probably drunk and didn't care.
What the fuck?
I assume they just didn't care. But so he got gallons of human urine.
Yeah.
Because he was like pee yellow. Obviously, why is it yellow? He would then he would put them in like clearish vials,
Yeah.
leave them out in the sun for a few days until they started to stink.
Ew.
And then he would move them into his basement
Ew.
and boil them in like this
Ew.
old-timey science bong-looking beaker thing. It has a name. I just can't remember what the name is right now. And he would heat it until all of the liquid evaporated, and all that was left is like this waxy white paste.
What?
And then he would burn the white paste, and in his mind, what would be left was gold.
Oh.
But that didn't happen. What ended up happening is everything, the residue that was left was this kind of like solid white material that glowed green.
Oh, what the fuck?
That was phosphorus.
Whoa,
but
what the fuck?
He didn't know that he kind of just accidentally discovered phosphorus. So what he did was he kept it a secret for like almost the rest of his life. He did end up selling the process to other actual scientists later on, and it didn't really even matter. He was never credited while he was alive. It came like posthumously.
Yeah.
And some British guy, like 10 years after he discovered it, rediscovers it anyway, and like
I see.
So it didn't really matter. But this man was basically, he thought he had found the Philosopher's Stone. Or he had created a glowing Philosopher's Stone, which is why it's called phosphorus. It means light bearer.
I see.
Yeah. But yeah, this man just thought, like, I got it. I don't know why he thought so, because he wasn't turning metal into gold, but he did find something probably more valuable. Just didn't know.
Yeah, no, that's, what the hell?
Yes.
I like, if people were asking, like, how did people find out about phosphorus? This would not be the answer I thought it would be. What?
A dude in Germany was boiling piss.
What?
That's how. Yes, because alchemy.
That's so cool.
The other one that I can like kind of rush through, for all my aviation peeps or like space travel, if you know who Jack Parsons is, he was an occultist. He was a Thelomite occultist. And he was one of the founders of JPL, which is a Jet Propulsion Laboratories, which later ended up kind of developing into NASA.
Oh.
And that dude, okay, so Thelema is fascinating to me because it shares a lot of the same principles as like certain branches of Satanism, which is why it got labeled as a demonic cult.
Oh.
It wasn't necessarily, but like, have you heard of Aleister Crowley?
Yes.
Yes. So he was a guy who founded Thelema, but Jack Parsons, by all accounts, was a very smart dude. He was kind of nerdy, kind of kept to himself. He just loved, he was born like a decade after the Wright brothers did their first successful flight. And this man was like, I don't want to go. I don't want to fly. I want to go to space. Like, he was super obsessed with space.
Yeah.
So that's what he did. He also came from a wealthy family up until like his dad died. He would build his own rockets in his backyard. He ended up getting kicked out of boarding school that his mom sent him to, ironically, to get rid of the obsession.
Yeah.
To like fix him. He got kicked out of that boarding school because he blew up one of the toilets.
Oh, I see.
Yes, he was just a really weird, odd kid, and he tried to summon Satan one time in his bedroom. It didn't work. Yeah. But he ended up joining Thelema, or practicing Thelema later on, when like Aleister Crowley was really on his like rise. And he actually is one of the more influential members because he basically did this ritual. It was called it was the Babylon working. And Babylon is within Thelema, within the practice of Thelema, is the Great Mother. She's like this feminine deity.
Yeah.
She's like represents the earth and like feminine sexual liberation. So Thelema was all about like personal self-empowerment and free will, right? They were also a sex cult.
I see. I see.
Yes. So they believed in the power of manifestation via orgasm power in like the simplest terms. So essentially what Jack Parsons ends up doing is the Babylon moving was like a big boink session
Oh.
because they believed that humans had the capability of tapping into like this cosmic power when they, when they were getting jiggy with it. So the more people you had, the more power you could harness, and he wanted to awaken the Great Mother. So she would then bear a child known as the Moon Child, who would then like either be inspired themselves to travel to space or bring upon an era in which man could reach the moon. So one of the guys who helped found NASA was doing that. He also had ties to the guy who founded Scientology. He actually got robbed technically by the guy who founded Scientology.
I see.
And that guy stole his wife.
Oh.
So
What the?
yeah,
Dang.
it's stuff like that.
Guy could not catch a break. Oh my god.
No, he did. Yeah, he was an occultist. He like straight up was in there, summoning Babylon.
Chat, you heard it here. You guys can reach the moon and have the deity bear a moon child through orgasmic power.
Yep. Yeah.
That is fucking insane. What the hell? I never would have known this. What the?
There's a lot of like fun, interesting things that go along with like occult studies and its development, but that is definitely one of the funnier ones. 1,000%.
Sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you guys heard it here from our demon princess herself. This is honestly all very fascinating. I'm really glad I chose this subject to talk about. This is so fucking cool. What the fuck?
This is great. Usually when I start getting into these, like, okay, so like the farther back you talk about occultism, like in history, people are like, oh yes, people were dumb back then. People didn't know any better. Mm-hmm. And then the closer you get it to modern day, people are like, oh, they were just crazy. 1,000% they were just crazy. I'm like, well, no, because he was a smart dude.
Oh, yeah. They were just curious, that's all. You're gonna call curious people kooks now? The fuck?
People just like to fuck around and hopefully find out, you know?
For sure. But yeah. Thank you so much for bringing all this info to us, though.
Yeah, no worries.
That's so freaking cool.
I'm glad I got to yap about some of this stuff. It's just in my head.
I'm sure a lot of people learned something today. I learned a lot. Like, piss. But
yeah, if you guys want to make a philosopher's stone,
no, just piss and boil it for a while.
Yeah. That's all you need.
It's all you need is just piss.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Well, I do want to ask you a couple, different questions though before we end it. But it's just, you've been in V Fleet for a little while as like our new debutees, or I don't know if there's an actual word for that, but you've been in a bit now since your debut. And how do you feel about being in such a group as V Fleet Project?
I mean, I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something I thought I would be doing.
Mm-hmm.
As someone who is like, I'm not gonna say I'm a full introvert. I think I fall like in the middle. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely an ambivert now, but it's like I have some of the girls are more acquainted with the community. As a whole, I wasn't. So I feel like I stepped into this kind of blind, but people are awesome. And I've like, again, people were curious. I have learned a lot about aviation and planes and ships and all that fun stuff. But within being the organization itself, keeping it vague, obviously. And I don't think I've ever said this before on stream, but the reason I came into it is I work in the museum sector.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm a museum worker. I'm museum staff admin specifically for a museum that will go unnamed for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But it's because I was in that sector that I found out about museum ships in the first place.
I see.
Yeah, because I didn't know they were a thing. Like, I didn't know that these, like, ships were here and everything that really went into them. Like, they are marvels of engineering.
Yeah.
And those aspects and the history behind them. So getting to learn about that was pretty cool. Like the first time I set foot on a museum ship, which we highly encourage everyone to go visit your local museum ships, was really cool from like my anthropology brain, because the ship itself is an artifact. Like, the history is caked into, like, you can smell them, you know? You're walking, like, it's so cool to be able to, like, inhabit those spaces. Like, to me, it's the same as, like, when you're, like, walking along Stonehenge, right? Like, these monuments.
Yeah.
Obviously, some of the ships have more of a reputation or more well-known, but it's the same because people who are no longer with us laid the keels, built me, did all the riveting, and they were out there doing stuff. They are warships also, so there's that. But it's really cool being able to not be stationary, I guess, because like museums obviously typically are stationary. You have to go there, you have to be there, but something like V Fleet is so cool because we get to like sneak into, we're in your walls. We're telling you. We're reminding you. Like, history is so freaking important. Humanity, like human studies are so freaking important. And being able to step onto a ship where it's tangible is, I think, kind of helps connect that, because there is a disconnect. Which is why I think a lot of people don't care for history. Reading it as opposed to being able to experience it. So I think it's super cool being part of an organization that is dedicated to like, hey, go, please. Yes. And then some museum ships are smaller than others. Some need more help than others, which is the same in just museums in general. I will say, as someone coming from that background, go visit more museums, please, especially nonprofits. They're little guys in a world of like just giant titans. And the titans have the money, so they can make those really dazzling kind of things. But the little guys, they need help. So it's really cool just being able to like be in someone's face and say, hey, go learn something, please. And obviously the team is amazing. Just to speak on that subject. Again, I'm a very shy bean, but everyone has been so awesome and so just lovely and welcoming. Like, oh, I love it.
We're so glad to have you here. We love Invictus. We love chat. Throw it back for Invictus. We love Invictus.
Throw it back.
No, but we do. We love you guys. You and Eve have brought so much joy to us, and we love having you guys here. And, and you guys have been such sweet people. I'm so glad I'm so glad you guys got thrown into the server and was like, here, get to know these folks. And we're like, oh,
we did,
sisters, beautiful sisters.
Did.
I lost my shit when I saw your guys' design. I was like, oh my god!
I was like, it's again, just to throw it back to the whole like, you don't know, you know. I was like super nervous because I'm like, I don't know what to expect. This is not something I've ever done before. I've never been someone who's like people watch me. Like, I can't even do like back when I was still like taking classes and stuff, I can't do in-person presentations to save my life. Like, if I were seeing actual people, I could not be able to talk to you. So, yes.
Oh, but we're so glad to have you guys here finally, after so long.
I'm so grateful that everyone has been the V Fleet family has been awesome. You guys are awesome, just amazing and super talented. I love that. I love seeing so much creativity in different forms just kind of like fostered in one like area.
But speaking of being new additions, we are having auditions.
Yes.
I rhymed. Anyways, we do have auditions. Do you have any advice or tips for people that are interested in potentially joining V Fleet Project?
Again, I feel like I'm a little bit out of my depth. I feel like such a baby. But I think it's just, if it's something you can use to just educate, to just showcase yourself, to express yourself, because that's what I really love also about my shipsters and my jetsters is you guys, your forms of expression are so different. Your forms of creativity are so different, but like it's all showcased in such unique like individual ways, and I love to see that. We just love to see it. So I think as cliche and sappy as it is, I sound like a PSA, but just express yourself in the best way you can that is most genuine to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and people people are people. People want that kind of genuine thing.
Yeah.
It's just be you.
Mm-hmm.
And just stick to who you are, obviously. Be respectful, be kind, be awesome. Do no harm, which is the American Anthropological Association kind of motto, do no harm.
Mm-hmm.
But no, yeah, just do you, be you, because there's only one of you
Mm-hmm.
in the vast ocean that is the pale blue dot that we exist on.
Mm-hmm.
And just, if you're scared, do it anyway.
Yeah, no, yeah. Honestly,
Yeah,
as
yeah,
Lucy said, if you're scared to do it, just fuck it. Fuck around, find out.
yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah, that's essentially what I did. I was low key shitting bricks when I was coming in because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so out of my depth. But again, and also just a shout out to our amazing team, V
Mm-hmm.
Fleet, like front facing and also back of house because
Mm-hmm.
they're super supportive
Mm-hmm.
and just awesome.
Oh yeah.
Like I have not one of the things unfortunately also with museums sometimes is like there's like hierarchy and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that, and sometimes when you knock on someone's door they won't open it,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the V Fleet I feel like if I ask a question everyone's super nice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like I have not been turned away. I have not. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I just love. You guys are awesome.
Oh, we love
Yeah.
you. Yeah. But thank you so much for our demon princess for I'm gonna say that because it's
Yeah.
like so on brand for your
It is.
aircraft. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
thank you so much for like bestowing upon like all this knowledge because again like I don't think I'm not gonna lie, guys. Chat, don't lie to me. Like, this is not something you guys probably would have known or like go to study on your own time. Like, some of you maybe, but like just as a like me being like an average just little person on this blue dot, I never would have thought to myself to study occultism and the history and everything that's gone behind it. So I think this has like been really cool to actually finally know and have some knowledge of it. You know?
Yeah, I encourage people to just if it's something you're not sure about that you're just like iffy about, just look into it.
Yeah. No
Just
harm in
learn
just
about it.
understanding. Yeah.
Exactly. Fear comes from a place of not understanding.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as you start opening yourself up and go into it like in good faith and just I'm here just to understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's does leagues.
Yeah.
Leagues like will move you and within yourself too, because like you're exposing yourself to things you wouldn't beforehand.
Yeah.
Like before I was super into the anthropology, I was in a rough place, and I will credit it with my studying into it, looking into it as helping me not be so closed off and so cynical. You know, like I feel like I'm a happier person now that I've looked into some of this really dark stuff.
Yeah.
Funnily enough. So, yeah, please.
Yeah, again, thank you so much for bestowing upon your power and your knowledge and you know, kind of what's it called? Quenching our curiosity. That's like the best way I can put it. That's such a weird way to put it, but it's
No,
true though.
actually, because I'm peeking into chat and don't fly guy. Correct. Be unapologetically curious.
Yeah.
And then I will also add, do not be afraid to look ridiculous as well.
Yeah, if people think you're a kook, fuck it. Be a kook. Nothing wrong with it.
Just exactly. You're just doing you and you just want to learn.
Yeah.
But yes.
Exactly.
Thank you, Mo, for having me on.
Again,
I appreciate
thank you so
it.
much for being my second guest. Like again, an honor. I'm really gotta I feel like this has like been such a bonding session. Like, you know, like I finally get to hear about you and not like the games that you're playing and kind of because I feel like when you guys stream, you guys kind of put on a little bit of a show and a little bit of a persona, but it's cool to just kind of hear you talk about what you're interested in. You know, because I feel like when you guys stream, you guys don't really get to do that. You guys don't really get to just talk about what you want because, you know, like part of you has to entertain the people that watch us and kind of have to play that little bit of a persona. But again, it's fascinating finally hearing it straight from you as a person, the things that you like and the things that you research and the things that you know, you know?
Yes, definitely. I completely understand that the need to, because we are still here to entertain, right? We're here to educate in part, but we're mostly here to entertain and have a good time. and I also love having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I do appreciate a space where I don't have to, where I just, again, I could just talk to you about
Yeah.
these people, about these things. It's nice. It's
No,
awesome.
yeah. Again, it was. I feel like so much more of your personality shows when you give someone the stage to present themselves as a
Yes.
person. You know?
Yes. I love you ever see someone like in person talking about something they're super passionate about and their eyes start
Yeah,
twinkling?
exactly.
Yes.
That's
I
exactly
love
how I feel
that.
about this. I feel like so much of you gets shown now that we finally talked about something that you know and that you're more a professional in. You know?
Yes, one
Yes.
day.
So thank you so much for being here and talking to us. But that is going to be time.
Yes.
I'm gonna go ahead and put that there and let us see who we can harass today.
Right time.
All right. Let's see.
Right, 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 right. Mhm.
Let us go and say. No one's on.
No?
The only
Oh
one person I see.
gosh.
Let everyone. Let's go say hello to Cinder. I guess. Yeah,
Yeah,
let's just say
everybody.
hello to our beautiful, a beautiful Firefox, not the browser. But thank you again so much, everyone, for joining, and I will see you all
Yeah.
soon in the next stream. I don't know when the hell that one's gonna be, but yeah. All right, thank you so much, and thank you, Lucy, for joining us.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, bye, everybody.